Hi, Grant. How are you? I'm good.
Well, we're talking all over each other.
So, how was your
Welcome.
vacation?
It was good. Yeah, I got out and did some hiking and some fly fishing and yeah, got a little bit of a break from work. So yeah, it was good.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my first time attending this meeting. So,
Yeah, welcome to the group. I'm glad that you're joining. We definitely need the support when it comes to the technical writing. I know we were talking about that in one-on-one before my break. So yeah, glad to have you
great.
on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just checked the agenda pretty quickly, and yeah, looking forward to discussing these points.
Great. Arturo.
Hello. Hey.
Hi, Arturo.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've been 2 weeks off, so just catching up with things. But yeah, if you miss 1 week, 2 weeks, then you almost need a couple of days just to catch up with all the things.
Yeah, I was off 2 weeks prior to the last one, and I feel like it took all of last week to catch up because there was a lot of I was kind of coming back into the milestone planning and working on that. So yeah, I was pretty involved. Hey, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Hello.
See, at least see one other in the doc. So maybe we'll wait 1 sec. Yeah, there we go. Hey, Fabio.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Fabio.
Cool. Well, let's jump into the agenda. I had the first 2 points, so I'll kind of kick it off. We've had some discussion under the REST over GraphQL POC. I think that's been the most active issue and what will kind of impact a lot of the other work that we're working on. The last kind of comment I captured was from Alex. I was trying to understand like what additional scope maybe we should account for within that issue, and his suggestion was all the remaining work on that falls under the performance testing. So that's where I've kind of pulled in this additional issue here. And I can also just share my screen to what I'm looking at. Okay. Yeah, so this is the performance analysis issue. And I think on that one, we're kind of working with Matthias on this, but and I think he's out for a few days, maybe longer. But from the discussion there, it seems like GQL scenario tests are one of the items that we need here. I'm hoping to, oh, there's another comment here. So my hope is that we can break this down, understand what kind of the next steps are to move this analysis forward. There's a comment in the discussion here about an example, kind of a manual test that we did around the issues endpoint and how performance for that query was subpar. But yeah, I think that we're in need of a more comprehensive test there. So yeah, I wanted to open it up for the sync discussion here. I know we've had some back and forth in Slack and in the issue or issues here, but is there anything else we can kind of identify or clarify around these issues today?
So my understanding is that we already have a proof of concept that this is working. And now maybe as Matthias say on that issue that you are linking here, that maybe they have capacity on 15.5. So I guess that maybe is just, I mean, assuming that it's ready from our side, is just waiting for them, maybe. But we
Yeah.
can double check if we still have to do something else before go for the, I guess it's the memory team or application performance now is the name of the team. Yeah, so we can double check if there is anything else from our side.
Great. Yeah, I might need to catch up on a couple of comments I hadn't seen that were added. But yeah, it wasn't clear to me how this was scoped, and if we, you know, if all we need to do is add additional scenario tests, if we are clear on kind of what we're taking away from this, like how it's, I guess the test will be set up, so that we can get a clear picture. Like I'm kind of imagining as an outcome that we could see, you know, for each API or maybe for some of the key APIs across, you know, multiple stages, we can kind of get a sense of, is GraphQL performant or subpar in every case? And then we kind of check some boxes and see, is this a you know, a universal problem that clearly points to needing to focus on GQL improvements first as a part of a revision and defining issues around that? Or is it kind of case by case, just getting a better kind of characterization of that? That's what I'm anticipating. I don't know if there's more we can add to scope this issue, or, you know, if this work as defined, once it's done, is that it? Or is there more that we're not accounting for? So I don't know. All in all, I'm a little bit fuzzy on you know, how, on like where this is and if there's more that we need to be doing. But you know, in any case, this is a great start. I think just any testing beyond like a manual check here and there is going to give us some feedback.
Yeah, I think like a different perspective of the problem would be that we need to be we do have a clear understanding of how the GraphQL is performing today, observability, and have all the metrics in place, and try to understand why sometimes it can be slow, what it can cause that to be slow. Like with REST, we have a lot of observability today, and we can pick up some endpoints and dig into those endpoints and understand like we have like n+1 problems, and at least we have some toolings today that allows us to dig more into the performance issues and what is the current state of GraphQL from this perspective. And so it's good that this is coming up now, because it means that before we even think about conversion between GraphQL to REST, we might need to first like have toolings in place and everything, like so that we can really have a GraphQL first like approach, where everything should be at least in terms of toolings and observability should be at least at the same level of REST if we want to make the switch, right?
Right.
And this will allow us to have better testing, better comparison, because otherwise we have to, the tests we've done today are very kind of a high level manual test, which still gives a lot of insights, but into the problem. But we will need better tooling there, I think, in place to be able to do this kind of comparisons. And another aspect would be maybe try to understand from this analysis, are there cases where GraphQL is actually faster than REST?
Right.
I don't know, are mutations faster for some reason? Depending on the logic should be the same, but the data returned might be the differentiator there. So with REST, we might return for certain endpoints like a larger response object. Maybe with GraphQL, given that it's user-driven, it could be less, and in the certain case scenario might be more performant. It's like this is something like to be answered, and at least we know what kind of aspects of GraphQL are more the hotspots. Are the queries size, or also the mutations and things like that.
Yeah, good points there. Do you see when you talk about tooling, is it all in that observability category? Because I'm kind of anticipating that on one side there's just the ability to, you know, run a performance test and do a comparison, and then the observability is something that allows us to kind of, as a result, dig deeper into why something's more performant or less performant. Is that how you would put it, or would you put all this tooling under the observability category?
Yeah, I think under the observability, because I'm not familiar with GraphQL observability we have today. But ultimately what we want to, the question we want to answer is this endpoint performant? What do we have like N+1 queries? And it's true that in the REST, in the GraphQL to REST conversion, we will have more static response objects, so we will know at least what is going to be serialized, and but at least to know whether it's the framework that is generating some N+1 queries that we'll need to solve with batch loading or different methodologies, or do we have, are we using those consistently, or are there places where we don't use those? And I think it's more kind of try to understand this from.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very high level, but yeah, I think it's more like I try to solve this kind of questions.
Awesome. So just thinking through that and the issues that we have defined, is there anything that we feel needs to be added to the performance analysis issue, or is this something? I think we do have an issue around observability as far as like understanding the tools we have in place, but is there something we need to kind of either identify as far as existing issues to pull in or define?
Yeah, I need to check the issue about the performance analysis, but ultimately, if we are not able to accomplish the performance analysis as we want because of lack of observability in certain areas, maybe there is where we need to go back and fix those gaps before we continue with the analysis.
Great. Okay, that makes sense.
I think it will be driven by the analysis, probably what we are missing.
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense. What we need should be driven. And I think I put this down, I'll just put it down as an action, and then the next point I was going to talk about the exit criteria MR that's open. So maybe we can see who should own this based on that. Any other comments or points on this topic? Cool. Okay, next item, I just wanted to point this out. I haven't had a chance to look on my end yet, but I know Arturo put this together before each of our kind of PTOs. So yeah, I think this is just an open item for us to go in and review. Arturo can speak a little bit more to this, but we wanted to make sure that each of the areas that we're working on, we have a DRI so that we have some accountability as we move items forward. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So any questions, Arturo, anything you want to add?
Yes, I think that's for transparency and a better organization. I think what we can do is like to map every exit criteria that we have with an epic, and then create sub-epics and issues belonging to the epics. So that way we can go to any criteria and see what is the progress, and we can keep track of what is the progress. We can better coordinate each other, and we know how far we are to achieving something, because at the end is go to that epic and check all the issues are complete. So this is done. And also I think adding a DRI, I think is going to help just, to have someone that is more like helping, to the progress of one specific epic. I think it's going to also help us to organize better all the work that we are doing. So at the moment, I think that maybe we have to create and move some issues around. Maybe there are issues that they don't belong to any epic, so maybe we can add to the epic. Then maybe some issues have to be promoted into an epic. And I don't know, I'm going to be working this week, but the next week I'm also off. So maybe I'm going to do all of this movement. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time this week, but just, you are going to see things around, but basically for a better organization. And any feedback that you have, just write in the mail request.
And one thing I would note is I recall from earlier on in our working group that there is an epic out there floating around under the blueprint around GraphQL. And that was something that Gershigors had owned, and he was open to us kind of bringing all these together. So I think that's still the case. So maybe consider those issues that might be out there. Maybe we can kind of, again, reorganize all these epics so that there's a bit of structure. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, at the end, that epic, for example, should belong to another epic, or like, so at the end, we know exactly it's not just another epic floating around, but just attached to something, to one exit criteria and to one DRI. So it's going to be easier to keep track of things.
Cool. If there are no other comments or questions there, Andy, you've got the next point.
Yeah. So yeah, I looked into how to automate the REST API documentation. So I'm assigned to this issue for quite a while, and I finally had time to look into this. The problem is that the Markdown documentation is manually maintained, and it's partially out of sync. So I was looking for ways to automate this, and came up with this plan in the linked issue. Yeah, if you have any feedback, that would be nice. I think we can discuss it async, but maybe you can give a short introduction. So I looked into the Grape Swagger gem, and this basically generates an open API documentation from all the things that are already defined in our API endpoint classes. And yeah, we can use this open API documentation to generate the Markdown documentation. So I thought the first step would be to introduce Grape Swagger and have like a kind of automation that generates the API documentation for every merge request that changes an endpoint. And after that, we can build something that can parse this and build the Markdown documentation. And ideally, we wouldn't do this all at once. We would just like do it step by step and add every endpoint step by step, so we don't have to have a very huge merge request. But if you want to know more details, I'll link this out in the comment, and feel free to add any feedback. And I hope we can start working on this at some point.
So I have a question. So our REST API documentation is done manually, but our GraphQL documentation is generated automatically. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I think this is also one point where we thought it would be useful to have an automated REST API documentation, because it works very well for GraphQL. And for REST, it's kind of a pain to keep this in sync.
And for GraphQL, I guess we use a rig task, right?
Pardon? Can I say that again?
For GraphQL, what do we use to generate the documentation?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe someone else knows.
Yeah, it's a rig task.
It's a rig task, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, no.
Yeah, that would be
that's-
interesting to look into, because yeah, ideally this would work kind of similarly, or maybe would even be the same rake task to generate all of the API documentations that are available.
Okay, cool. No, it's yeah, it's just good to know. So
If I miss it, we didn't have an answer on this call, right? For what we use to generate the GQL docs.
It's a rake task.
a rake task.
A rake task. Okay, sorry, I missed that. Okay. And I added a note here as well. This is a link to a conversation I shared in Slack. So the API security group is also looking into generating API docs, and they seem to be in a position to start work on this pretty soon. So I was hoping to invite folks from that team to our group as well. They seem really interested in this. So I'm actually going to be speaking to Derek, the product manager on that team, right after this. So, you know, Andy, might be good to just be aware of them, and maybe if you're not, you know, familiar with those folks, we can do some introductions and see how we can collaborate. And I would expect that they might be interested in joining in future calls.
Yeah, that would be nice. And maybe you can also point them to the comment I left on this issue. And
Yeah,
because there's some merge request link that I used for experimenting, and I have a merge request that already adds the grep Swagger gem and generates the open API documentation. So maybe if they want to start working on this, maybe this would be useful as a starting point to look into.
great. Yeah, I'll point them to this, and they may, you know, want to reach out or you know, connect with you in MRs and things. So yeah, we'll see where this goes, but I think it's great that we have another group that's really interested in what we're working on. We need more firepower, so that's exciting.
And
Yes.
Andy, I think you touched on that one a bit. Can't we use also a rake task to generate the documentation for REST API?
Yes, yeah. So this is what I'm planning to do. So the rake task is basically what, the thing that starts the generation, but under the hood, it would use this grep Swagger gem to,
Okay.
to build the open API document.
So it's kind of more or less the same method.
Yeah, in terms of starting a generation, maybe we can even use the same rake task, so we don't have two rake tasks that we have to run. Maybe one rake task can cover both. It would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's feasible, yeah, I was just wondering about it. So yeah, that sounds good.
Do we then need to create another conversion layer from the YAML format that I see in the merge request to a static site?
What do you mean by static site?
So how can we display the YAML configuration, the YAML files that are kind of generated for the specs
there's actually something very cool I discovered. Grant, if you can I share my screen? Maybe you can stop sharing yours, then I can show it. This is the right one. So this is the merge request where I tried grep Swagger, and we so this is the YAML it created, and we actually have a built-in thing in GitLab that can show it this way. So it, I think it somehow uses Swagger UI, and yeah, it parses this YAML file and builds this thing from it. So this is pretty cool. We have already built a built-in viewer for this, and we just need to link it from the documentation.
Question, Andy, I think, don't we already have this view, or maybe you're pointing out something additional, but if we went to our API documentation, there's a link to an open API spec. It's just not very robust today. Are you aware?
Yeah, exactly. We already have one. So this is actually right next to it. So this is the one we already have. The difference is this is using OpenAPI version 3, and
Okay.
The grep Swagger gem can only generate version 2. So this one is, I think it's built manually. So someone went there and just like built all those YAML files by hand. And yeah, I think there's also a way to so if we can generate the version 2 document, there's also a parser that can make it to version 3. So if you want to have a more up-to-date documentation, we might be able to use this too.
So just to clarify, the one we have today is manually generated and V3 OpenAPI v3
Yes, exactly.
is okay, and the one that you were working to build off of Grape Swagger is v2.
Right. So it's the older version. Yeah, I was also trying to see if I can get it to generate a newer version, but this seems to be more complex. So I thought maybe it would be easier to go with v2 for now. And I also found that we have an issue. Oh, sorry. Say it again.
I'm sorry. For GraphQL, is it version 2 or version 3?
I think for GraphQL, this is another format. I'm not sure if this is probably not using OpenAPI.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of curious, like if there are any risks of going straight to v2 when it's an an older version of OpenAPI. So that'd be one thing.
Maybe we can keep the version 3 documents that we already have and add version 2 next to it. I found that we have an issue open that's actually requesting version 2 documentation. I was wondering why this is, but it seems like there are some customers or users that are interested in especially version 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I tagged you. I actually tagged you on this issue just before, so maybe can try to find it again. Yeah, you should be able to see it. Yeah, maybe we can try to figure out why version 2 or why version 3 and which one's better and what's the differences.
Right. Yeah. Let's look into that. I know I was looking into it a couple weeks back, but I don't recall the specifics now. I thought they just added additional support in v3, so I'd be kind of surprised if you couldn't do everything you can in v2 and v3. But yeah, we can explore that. The only other thing I did want to add is also note that the security team was exploring like potential issues in how we render OpenAPI specs in a site. So whatever we do moving forward, we want to make sure we do that appropriately. So we can, there's an open issue I can try to point you to on that one. Okay, I only have 2 minutes before I have to hop to a call. I know we're a little bit over time anyway, so I'll hit this last item real quick. API gap analysis has been a bit stale. The next step we've been talking around is creating a survey. So I've started that, just put a couple of ideas as far as questions to ask in this morning, and we'll try to work on that this week to build it out. But if there are questions that you guys have in mind to extend this API gap analysis, I think we're ultimately deciding that going team by team, asking every team to go through a spreadsheet and like pull down all their APIs. It's a bit of effort. I think that what we started with was really helpful to get a picture of what what it looks like in terms of gaps and between REST and GraphQL and effort. So it was a good start, and hopefully we can build on that and go to a survey that we can get a little more broader reach and feedback. If there are any other approaches that I'm not thinking of to get a more holistic picture across the org, let me know. But let's just chat in that issue, unless you have a quick comment in the next 30 seconds. Cool. All right. Otherwise, check that out. I'm going to hop. I don't know if it'll kill the meeting. If you guys have any other points you want to continue on. Okay. Otherwise, thanks everyone for joining. And
you.
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
have
thank
a
you.
good day.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.